Yo, fam. Welcome back. Good to be here. I slept the last 24 hours. Sorry if you tried to get a hold of me. I was out. This FTX drama has had me up for like a week, and I finally just collapsed and slept it off. I feel good, a little groggy, but feeling better. Good to be back. I believe really nothing has unfolded during my napping period. I think we're really where we were with BlockFi looking to declare bankruptcy, FTX having pulled them down along with many other exchanges. We're kind of just waiting to see what falls next. Smash the likes and subscribe buttons, guys, if you're here. Get hype. Help bring YouTube, or help bring new viewers to the YouTube. Do that by engaging with the stream. Engaging is hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, along with voting in the polls, chatting during the live, etc. Many ways to contribute. It's not placebo. It really does work. So please hit those buttons. I appreciate you. Everyone doing it day in and day out. Shout out to our sponsors. We've got Bybit, Market Cipher, and BingX. Love them. Great platforms. No problems on those platforms yet. To update you guys, I said this in the last stream. I am waiting. I don't have any insider information for you, unfortunately. My contacts at both Bybit and BingX have communicated to me that a proof of reserves audit is a priority. Obviously, I think that's every exchange's priority right now. The minute that they publish that, I'll share it with you guys, and I'm going to say it. Don't tell them I said this, but no one will be sponsoring this channel, period, if they don't produce this proof of reserves to a satisfactory degree. We have seen some proof of reserves come out for exchanges like Coinbase.com. I did. Unfortunately, I'll say start a rumor, but it wasn't a rumor. It was a hunch that they may have some issues next. That hasn't quite unfolded, but it does seem like the market has grabbed onto that, and I've seen a lot of big accounts start tweeting it. Time will tell, but they published kind of a rush proof of reserves. It didn't really satisfy us, and that's not what we're going to be expecting from our partners here. We'll keep you guys updated to the minute. I'm going to say this. Yes, they are our sponsors. They're great places to trade, but like everything, any centralized exchange has risk, and right now that risk is heightened with the FTX collapse, with kind of this cascading effect. They're, in my opinion, safe, but there's always risk, and you need to be aware of that risk. I don't believe it makes any sense to keep your assets on exchange right now that you aren't using actively, meaning anything outside of a trading bag, anything outside of something you're actively using these assets for. It doesn't make sense to have them on exchange. I think it's cold wallet time, boys. I withdrew all my assets earlier this month into my cold wallets, minus my trading bags. I highly recommend you do the same. No one had any reason to suspect FTX a year ago. Nobody. My heart goes out to people who maybe took sponsorships from them. How would they have known? I don't know. No one had any suspicions of them. I kind of did, and I voiced this before. I didn't meet anyone who used the exchange, so it was very odd to me to see them kind of move into the second rank. Yet no one I know claimed to use it as a primary source, and very few people even had accounts there. That was a red flag, I guess, going forward. I'll pay more attention to that. But in the moment, there was really no time, or there was really no reason to suspect them. So, heart goes out to you guys. Super chat, LFG, Crypto Winters here, says Love Jeet. Crypto Winter, I guess, has been here. I mean, let's take a look at the monthly chart. Thanks for getting me back on track. Love Jeet, I appreciate you. It's been some times, right? We haven't seen a new all-time high since November of last year. Fun fact, this was when I was in Miami. Speaking of which, going back to Miami this month, guys, hopefully it is as lit as last year. I imagine it's going to be a great time. You can use my link in the video description below to buy tickets for Decentral. I'm going to be there, hell or high water. Going to be a good time either way. But it's been a year now. 365 days roughly are just coming up on there since our 69K high back in November last year. And it's been kind of wintry, eh? How do my Canadians feel about it? Looking at our monthly chart, let's do a quick recap. In June, we fell down to that 20,000 level. We kind of bounced there. We had held it as support for a few months before closing lower in September. And yes, in November here, we have moved down, breaking that 17.5 support, breaking the 20K support, and reached as low as 15.5 to my knowledge. I would like to see this monthly settle up above 17.1. That can show us some kind of support is being found at the 2018 high. This doesn't really get us out of the woods because unfortunately it could set us up just for the same price action we saw at 20K. Maybe we close above, we bounce, we close above, and then eventually we fall under, maybe looking something like this. My immediate downside target, if you're still bearish, you have a poll going, please, 48% are saying they're bearish, makes sense. Please vote in that poll, let us know, engage with the stream, you know how it is. If you're still bearish, my immediate next downside target, I don't have a time on this, though, I don't know, towards the end of the year might make sense. We have seen some historic crypto collapses in November, December, like in 2018 when we fell from 6K to 3K. If that's what you're betting on, 13.8, 14K to 13.8 area, this is a major monthly level. The candle closes in 2017, 2018 at the all-time high. Resistance was found there in 2019. This is a very logical place to expect support. On the way up in 2020, we did not have a clean or really any backtest of this level. I remember it because I kept saying, well, you know, price is going up. We don't want to FOMO. 13.8, probably a really solid place to look to sneak back in if you're caught off guard by this bull run. Never came back. Never came back. People were making fun of me for being too bullish and too bearish simultaneously. It was quite a mix. But that's where my eyes are going to be set. Below that, we have 10.5, 10.7. That's the next logical spot, but I am skeptical. I'm skeptical that we're going to get that low. This quarterly candle looking awful. We had in Q1 a very close doji candle with a long bottom wick. We had a large bodied candle in Q2 in April. Q3, similar to Q1. And now again, here we are, Q4. This is possibly going to be the first year, I believe, the first 4 quarterlies in a row to close red, if nothing changes by the end of the year. I don't believe this has ever happened before. Although, I'll say this, Bitcoin doing a lot of firsts. It has been. It's the cycle of firsts as we've deemed it. Things are not looking great today. I am a perma bull. Make fun of me. That doesn't mean I think price is going up today. Doesn't mean the bottom is always in. Doesn't mean we only go up. I believe that over time, up is the logical bet. That's why I identify as a perma bull. That's my pronouns, perma bull. And you'd be best to respect them. But right now, things not looking so great. If we zoom into the weekly time frame, we have kind of an unchecked descending trend line from our highs. We're still far away from that. If we add the 200 weekly moving average, that's still chilling at about 24K. That gives us a lot of potential upside to run and still not really make it anywhere, just kind of treading water if price moves back up to the 200 weekly. I do believe this is the farthest away we've trended from the 200 weekly ever, perhaps. I'm not sure we've ever gone this far underneath it during a bear market. There's something interesting I wanted to show you guys. Let me pull this up. I didn't prepare it. So if we take a look at kind of these large weekly moving averages, there is something interesting here. I'm going to show you guys. There we go. Let me make these all white, just so there's no confusion. You don't need this one. We'll have to actually get off the Binance chart because the Binance chart does not have enough chart history. So what we're going to look at here, though, what we're going to look at here is going to have to be on Coinbase or BLX. So BTC USD, not BTC USDT. We go to Bitstamp. Let's try Bitstamp. We haven't looked at you in a while. We're going to go to the weekly, and we're going to add onto our chart what I just did. I'm going to have to do it again because it didn't save. I have too many indicators. Okay. What we're going to do is add the, let's say, the 100, the 200, the 300, and the 400 weekly moving averages. This could, I will admit, this could just be kind of looking for what we want to find, but I think there's something here worth looking at, so I want to share it with you guys today. If we place these on our chart, things get a little wavy. There's a lot of price action to look at, right? It's maybe a little confusing. But what we kind of see if we go back to the beginning of Bitcoin's history is, let's extrapolate this 100 backwards. So this isn't real TA. This is just kind of using a little like logic, right? We're just going to add a little logic. We can see price remained relatively or completely above the 100 weekly moving average. Here's where it gets kind of spicy. Here's where it gets spicy. The 200 weekly moving average began right here, June 2015. This is where it began. This was the 200th traded week of Bitcoin. We can see as it spawned, as we reached 200 trading weeks, price came down to it and tested it. It found a bottom there. Kind of interesting. If we keep going, we see that right here, similarly, we came down to touch the 200, and then we touched the 300 last cycle in 2019. So we have a touch, I guess, the 200. That's not as relevant, but we have right here, the 200 started, we touched it. Here's the 300, we touched it last cycle. So let's use a little logic here, and you're going to maybe be spooked. Might be spooked once I do this. So what did we have? We did the 100, we did the 200, so now we're in another cycle. What's logical for just following this pattern? Well, maybe the 300 moving average, right, on the weekly. Where is it? This is what kind of makes me a little shaky here, is if we look at the 300 weekly moving average, it is directly at what? Our next downside support. It's like perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I guess there are no conspiracies, but there also are no coincidences or something. This is a little spooky to me. It does, in my opinion, suggest 13.8 is on the table or maybe coming. But I think it also suggests to me, if we use that same logic, that support will be found there. We saw the same thing happen in the previous two cycles at the 100 and the 200 and the 300. Now we're looking at the 400. It's right over 13.8, right where we're looking to find support. So I think that makes sense. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. That's a logical confluence of ideas. Speaking of confluence, check out the pinned post at the top of the chat. We published a new short. It's actually about confluence, so worth a watch. Cool. Cool. All right, I got through most of this. What else did we have going on today? We've got 360 viewing and 90 likes. Those are rookie numbers. Let's get that up, boys. Let's get to 420 likes. It's good to be here. It's good to be back. Not a lot's going on today. I don't expect super high viewership because I'm not going to do like a crazy clickbait title. This is about as clickbaity as we get. Crypto crash or bottom. That's about as clickbait as this channel gets. Let's look at the dollar. The dollar definitely pulling some moves we weren't expecting. So we saw kind of a falling wedge, and that's a pretty bullish pattern typically. We saw tests so top and the bottom. Now we've fallen out of it. So this may either invalidate the falling wedge, or what we might be looking for here on the dollar is a back test of the lower support trend. That would be right around 108. Finding resistance there can set us up for further downside, down to maybe 103, maybe even 100. It is interesting to me that the dollar is getting so far away from that 121 Dixie target. We were pretty confident in that. I still don't really see how this is going to play out without going there, but can't argue the charts. Price is moving down, not moving up, at least for now. I think if we even look at the weekly time frame, let me hide this, we can see that this structure is pretty bunked. It's pretty broken. We were in a very tight, very smooth parabolic curve, and in the last few weeks, it does seem as if we've fallen out of them. I did warn you guys in my little brief update a week or two ago that, well, curves are really imperfect. There is no real way to place them. They're very interpretive, and so we may still be in a curve. We could place a curve that would fit here, but what I'm seeing is this last week into this week without, I don't know, a large run up past 110, it does look like this structure has been broken. We can continuously move the goalpost, which I will do here. I'd say 107. We broke that structure. Now we can say, well, I don't know, maybe down here at 104.6 this week in August. If that breaks, the structure is broken. I would say this. I think it's confirmed broken if we break down below 103.6. There is a possibility, like we were talking about, kind of bouncing up, testing the bottom of that wedge as resistance. Maybe it's still in play. This is looking to me kind of like a broadening pattern on the dollar. We see our highs kind of exaggerating up and our lows exaggerating down. I wouldn't call it victory yet. I wouldn't call the dollar cooked quite yet, but it does seem to be showing. It does seem to be showing some weakness here. And what kind of sucks is it does seem like with this FTX drama, with all these liquidating kind of cascading effects in crypto, Bitcoin not really moving in the way we would expect for a very long time. We were watching Bitcoin trade essentially perfectly inversely to the dollar. Oop, here we go. As we can see last week, not the case. The dollar fell 4% last week. Bitcoin fell 22% last week. Now, this doesn't actually get me scared or anything. I don't think this is anything to worry about. But what it is we're seeing those correlations that people get so caught on. And I, myself included, it traded perfectly inverse for months. It's logical to keep looking for it, but we wanted to look for invalidation of that correlation. We got it last week. The dollar falling 4%, that's a large loss on the Dixie for a week, and Bitcoin falling abnormally far as well. Let's see. That is the largest red week since June 2022. So, is the correlation broken? I would like to propose that, honestly, there really never was one. Correlations in crypto, especially Bitcoin, really seem to be fleeting things. People constantly are trying to compare it, which makes sense. We're looking for an anchor for our knowledge. We want our knowledge to be anchored to some kind of logic. Correlations are very visible and very easy to spot, and so we tend to pick those up. However, there is errors in this thinking. We say, oh, it's moving with stocks, it's moving with gold, it's moving with the dollar, it's moving against the dollar, it's moving against stocks. We get comfortable with that, and then it breaks. And we're stuck as kind of novice traders still looking for that, holding on to that idea because that anchor is giving us comfort. It can become a trap quickly. We have 5 days, 5 hours in this week, and price needs to make it all the way to 2,100. 2,100 for a bullish engulf in the week. That's 28.5%. Now, definitely not impossible, but not looking super likely. Let's zoom into the day. This is the big bummer. After this, we're going to look at total market cap. This is the big bummer. Not only did we lose 17.5, 17.1, but price action kind of muted so far underneath it. We're not seeing a huge rally. We're not seeing kind of hopeful capitulation like we would have wanted. That's not so great. In fact, if we look at the previous low in June 18th, 2022, if we look at that previous low at like 17.6, and we come over here to the daily, let me clean this up for you. This doesn't need to be here on the day. There we go. We see that not only did we find support there, once we broke, look at these daily candles. Right here, these daily candles. Literally closing, rejecting at that previous support. So what is that? Potentially that's previous support turned resistance at 17.6. Not ideal. Not ideal. Though we did see record breaking volumes on this drop on Binance, we don't really see capitulation here. I hate to say it. We have newly found support by these daily opens and closes. We came down to test it. We've kind of weekly bounced, and here we are again at 17.1, hoping not to find resistance here. That is not great. We found resistance at the previous support of 17.6. We found support at the newly printed support at 15.9. Now potentially on this daily looking to find resistance at 17.1. That is not a great structure. That's kind of a sinking pattern. Testing previous supports, getting rejected, finding support, really not going anywhere. Like we didn't set a higher high or anything. This chart's not looking amazing. I will preface this, guys. Read into this the way you will. I'm not here to sell you on my idea. But every bottom we've seen, and I'm not saying, I'll say this first. I've assumed the bottom was in. I've been wrong. More than once. But every time that we do see a bottom, it will not feel like a bottom. It won't. That's just a characteristic of a crypto bottom. It could be in, I don't know, I'm not going to call it. The lows that we've hit don't make any sense. I will say market cipher B here on the day, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good as VWAP crosses over to positive with positive money flow and momentum coming up. Not bad. We need to see a lot of follow through on this for it to really confirm. But what I was going to say about the low is, what is this, 15.5? This is not a real value. So I did say this back in June, 17.5, 17.6, that's not a significant value to the chart. It doesn't make sense to find support there. I'll admit after 150 days of not breaking that low and just trading sideways above, I was leaning more on the side of the bottoms in. That makes sense logically. Bears are unable to defeat that level, pull price lower, and so it became more, I don't know, rational to think, well, maybe the bottom is in. Here we are again with another gibberish low. This doesn't make sense. 15.5 doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to make that same mistake twice. There is nothing to the left of the chart that says 15.5 is probably where we'll find support and bounce. Like, this is really an inefficient gap in price here. On the way up, we barely messed around in this range, really just went all the way up. looking back to 2000, where are we? 2017, 2018, you can see we definitely stayed in this zone where we found a top, but there's really nothing here. There's nothing here. So it is similar to June in that concept of it did bounce. This bounce doesn't look as good as June so far, but this isn't a rational space to find support. It doesn't have to be rational. 3,100 was not really a rational low in 2018. Really wasn't like a significant support or resistance, but that's where the bottomed out. That could happen here, but I don't know. I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable in the bottom being in at a touch of 13.8, 14K around there. If that doesn't hold, 10.7, 10.5, as we've long had. I didn't think it would test these things, but I said if it does go down here, this is where we're looking. So I do like that Market Cipher B has given us a little bit of lovely here, but it's not going to be enough without follow through. And follow through really to me is going to mean about 21K or higher. If we have a bullish engulf on this week, I think things can look pretty decent, but we're very far from there. I did want to update you guys on the monthly MACD momentum. We talked about this many moons ago. It's still in play. I'll put it on Bitstamp so we can actually have a real history. Every time Bitcoin has closed a monthly waning momentum candle, like in September of this year, in April of 2020, geez, not last year, February of 2019, it actually extends back to the March 2015. Every time we've closed this, we have seen a series of waning momentum candles, and eventually we've seen a rally of over 100%. This is not a bottom in, go all in, obviously, because we got that signal, we traded lower. But this is a pretty confident thing of, we don't really know when, but price does seem to be losing some of its steam to the downside. That's about all the hopium I got for you here today. The reason this stands out for me is because we looked at this, I think, October 1st. And since we've fallen so much since then, it would be logical for us potentially to have a gaining momentum or a increasing selling momentum candle paint. But kind of the comfort I'm taking here is even though price was pushed down this far, our momentum on the MACD has not been trifled, has not been stopped. It continues to wane. I would have not been surprised to see that change here. Didn't happen. So there we go. That's all the hopium I got today. I think that's about it. Let's zoom in. Mostly sideways price action on this fall. Mostly sideways. Not really even a lot to like point out here. Our wick high on the 14th was yesterday or the day before. I think a break of that, so that's our 71, 72 area. We can look a little higher. What are we even looking at here, chat? What even is this? Like, what's happening? Let's look at these low time frames quick. So I'm going to look down into like the very, very low time frames here. Okay, cool. Cuckoo. All right, let's start off with the 1 minute. A little bit of upside here. Not beautiful, but a little bit. 5 minute, not really mirroring that sentiment in my opinion. Maybe I'll have to look a little deeper. 15 minute, definitely a little droopy. That money flow is holding on, but not great. So far, all these not looking like super upsidey. We keep seeing our yellow here. By the way, Market Cipher links in the chat. That's what I'm using here. This is our VWAP. Our VWAP on almost all these time frames has hit a lower low. That's typically characteristic of downside price action. On the 45, I do like that momentum was remaining positive, but it really hasn't gone anywhere, and so it's hard to really believe it. It's hard to really give that any weight. The hour, much more reflective of all these other time frames we just looked at with their lower hit on VWAP, with our negative money flow. This isn't like fiercely bullish on or fiercely bearish on these low time frames, but they are all kind of pointing down. They're all kind of pointing to a little bit more lagging, a little bit more saggy price action. We see that here with the 2 hours money flow continuing. Looks like it wants to take another run down. VWAP just at that lower low, not quite yet breached. Not a lot of hope. Not a lot of hope on those lower time frames. No, come back. Not a lot. 4 hour. Pooped. Pooped. Not a lot. Not a lot of hopium. Not a lot. What about the 12? 12's like slowly kind of reaching up, but the 12 hour really got us kind of wrecked back here with its bullishness and then dump. So I don't know if I trust you, 12 hour. Mostly sideways. Mostly sideways. Some kind of symmetrical pattern, I'm sure, as we always see off these dumps. Let's do something like this. This by all purposes, all means, is a bear flag. You guys know I'm not a huge believer in flags of any kind in crypto, but here we go. We have our pole, we have our high and our low, and those highs and lows continue to contract, and that is very characteristic of a flag. This one being a bear flag as the pole starts downward. If you want to see a measured move here, let's take our lows and our highs, point them down. 14.1, 13.3. Makes sense. Not too bad. Let's check out our retracement to the way up. 19,000 is our 618, and about 20k sitting just under or just above that support, our 786. So that is pretty in line with what I said earlier of like maybe a rally to 21k will get this kind of moving, get us moving back up. But our measured move's kind of pointing down towards that 13.8 level. Not super awesome. Failed bullish engulf here. I was hoping as I saw this, because I slept all through the last candle, as I saw this green, then red, I was hoping to see a 3 rising methods pattern, which would have needed a daily close above 17.6 here. That would have been beautiful. We did not get it. Didn't even get the 17.6 intraday. And now we're kind of just floating here on this candle. Not a lot of strength in either direction, it seems. The market a little shocked after that drop. A little shocked. But really what is important here, in my opinion, is we had a huge drop with massive record-setting volume, and this is our response. Now, we do have 5 days and 5 hours to go. There's plenty of time. It could move up to 21k. It could move down to 13.8. Lots can happen in 5 days, but this is not really the capitulation bounce that I would have looked for. If the weekly can settle up above 21k, that does change the picture, but it's far away from there. Not looking super hopeful at this time. 500 viewers, what is up? What's up, Crypto Poppy? Mini Console Mods, what is up, man? Like number 159, I don't know what that is. Tom Crown, have a look at the 2-week chart. All right, Jason Butler, I'll take a look at the 2-week chart. It has been a while, 2-week. 2-week chart. 3 falling methods. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Good eye. It's a little ugly. I see why I didn't like catch it, also because I've been sleeping. I see why I wouldn't have caught it, because it is a little ugly, but you are correct, sir. You are correct. Let's bring that to the front. Let's make this more visible. There it is. And to invert it, just to make it a little easier to see for people, you are right. We have a large-bodied candle. 1, 2, 3 candles in the opposite direction. And then boom, right there. With this close above or below 18.8. You do have a 3 falling methods. That's an extremely bearish signal, especially on the 2-week time frame. That's extremely bearish. Good eye. Good eye, my friend. Bravo. Give yourself a pat on the back. Jason Butler. Have a star. What's up, Daniel? John Doe. Manuel. Pants off, dance off. Bitcoin dump incoming, says Manuel. I mean, I might not have pants on. You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know. I have pants on. Don't worry. Don't worry, fam. Just plain crazy. How you doing, bro? Tommy V. What's good, my friend? What's good? How you doing, man? QT check F Tom, sure. Only for you, my child. Hey, what's up, Jackie? How you doing, Jackie of the Carolinas? Ethereum, ooh, not looking too bad, honestly. Ethereum holding its low from June. That's showing relative strength to Bitcoin, meaning we should have experienced some upside on FBTC. Holding the line at 1100, it looks like, with its higher low, finding resistance, dude. People who say charts don't work, it's like, explain to me how like the bottom and then the local top, the swing high after the low, how those are perfect, like within a few bucks. TA doesn't work, crazy people. I just don't know what TA is. You have 1, 2, 3 tests up here at 1291. That is weakening it as resistance, but this is the macro, man, right here for Ethereum. This is it. This is where we found resistance after bouncing back in June. We found support here and consolidated before a lower high, fell lower. Now we're testing it again. This is the line. If Ethereum can get back above what is it, like 1291-ish. I'd like to see like 1300 close, but if it can get back above there, it's done most of the battling that it has to do. I think what comes to my eye here is, again, a symmetrical pattern. I don't know how exactly we would point this, maybe something like this. And we're looking for really any price action outside of this triangle. That's what we're kind of looking for. While we're in it, not a lot is happening. To bounce up and down here, not a lot's happening. A break to either side likely going to be a precursor to continuation in that direction. So keep your eyes on the 1100 low here. I'm going to set an alert. And your eyes on 1300 high. Break of 1300, you're probably looking for 1550. Break of 1100, I mean, you can retest June's low at 880? 880-ish. Then you got a pretty macro support at 750. That's about it. There's not a lot underneath 750, so keep your fingers crossed if you're holding a heavy bag of Ethereum. I still have quite a few Ethereums. I feel okay holding it right now. I don't want to add more. I'm not really enticed to add more on Ethereum here. With the move to proof of stake and so many coins locked up in the staking mechanism with no real clarity as to when they will be unfrozen or movable, aka available for market selling, that makes me a little skeptical here. I'm not dumping them in a panic. I'm not dumping anything in a panic, although there is some good news, guys. All right, so I'm not a CPA. This is not financial tax advice because everyone is in a different place. There's no way to possibly speak to everyone's tax jurisdiction here. But there is a clever little play. You need to find out if this is available in your area that people can do here if you're heavily underwater. I'm planning on probably doing it with all of the BTC I've made as income this year, if before the end of the year. So let me restart this idea. I have been paid in BTC through affiliates or whatnot throughout the year, and obviously Bitcoin is now at a lower price than then, right? So I owe taxes on it at the value that I received it. So this is pretty crappy. This is a crappy setup. I was paid all throughout this year at different times, BTC, and those are at higher levels. So if I got 10 grand at 40K, I owe 10 grand on it, or I owe the tax worth of 10 grand of income. However, that's only worth half that amount now. So I get really boned. There's something that you can do though. Again, depending on where you are, you need to figure this out for yourself if this is applicable where you live. I'm gonna make a new chart just so I can doodle on it. What I can do and what I plan on doing before the end of the year after I talk to my tax guy, just to double check, because I don't take chances here at the government and the IRS, man, I pay him. But what is on the table here is something called, I believe it's called wash trading, right? Or loss harvesting. So let's say throughout the year I got BTC, right? Paid out, it's worth less now. What I can do is sell that Bitcoin at a loss here. So at 16.7, whatever, anything underneath what I received it for, I can sell it and rebuy it. Sounds counterintuitive. Why would you do that, right? Well, here is how it works, at least where I live and for my tax purposes. Again, I'm checking with my CPA. Because I received it at higher prices, if I sell it here, what happens is, well, now I have a capital gains loss because I bought it or received it at a higher price level. Selling it here is a loss on paper. I'm rebuying it, so have I lost anything? Not actually. I mean, the difference, in what it should be versus when I got it, whatever. But this event doesn't actually make me lose anything. But what it does do is it creates a realized loss on paper for this year. And then instead of being taxed at that 40,000 or whatever average it is that I got it, I'm now able to deduct the realized loss by that sell and buy, yet I still have the exact same amount of Bitcoin as I still had to begin with. So I haven't lost any coin, but what I've done is I've harvested the tax gain, or I've harvested the tax loss here, and I'm able to write off some of that, which is going to, at the end of the year, help my bottom line. Now, doesn't that just sound like illegal, right? It just sounds like sketchy. But this is, again, wherever you are, depends on if you can do this, if this is legal, if this will actually, check with your CPA. But to my knowledge, There is absolutely nothing wrong with this, and this is literally how, in my jurisdiction, taxes work, and this is very common practice, to offload assets at the end of the year that are underwater, repurchase them, and now instead of having to pay a high income on them, you pay much less because you're deducting the loss. So there's a little silver lining for people out there. If you started investing, I don't know, at the height last year, or at the height of, last year, or at the beginning of this year, you may have some tax shelter by doing something like this. So go ask your CPA, ask your professional, figure out if it is applicable where you live. Definitely don't try to break the law with this. The only reason I'm talking about it is because, to my knowledge, unless that's changed this year, this is totally kosher. This is totally legit where I am. To me, it sounds really not legit. It sounds really like skeezy, doesn't it? It's like, but you didn't really lose anything. Why can you declare losses? Well, I think the answer is, at the same time, it goes in the other direction. Like, why am I paying taxes then on something that isn't worth what I got? Isn't worth when I received it what it is worth. It's worth like less than half now. To pay full taxes on it doesn't really make sense logically either, because even if I sold the asset, I might not even have enough to cover that tax basis. So I am not a tax professional. Let me just say one more time, because I don't want people to get confused. This is something that is going to be in play jurisdiction by jurisdiction. And if this is applicable to you, it is important though, because it's only going to be what you received this year, what you bought this year. This might be a good idea. Tax loss harvesting might be a good idea. Check with your professionals. Nice. I didn't even really plan on talking about that today, but I'm just vibing. I will tell you guys, the FTX drama had me awake for like a week. And yesterday I just passed out, just super freaking hard passed out. And I slept all day. I slept like 24 hours. I feel like a teenager again. It's pretty wild. I feel good though. 530 viewing, kind of low numbers. Kind of low numbers for us. That's all right. Our likes. I think we might have to blame the likes. We don't have a lot of likes. Only 201 likes with 500 viewing. We haven't even gotten 420. That is shameful. Shameful. Josh Man 228 says legal where he is. You tax harvest losses. It's hard to say. It's like a tongue twister every year. There you go. Again, it's going to come down to where you live. I'm going to stop repeating that, but that's the most important part. Don't screw yourself doing this and then find out that like you're not allowed to do this or it's legal where you are. But if it is and you're underwater, because I get some of my affiliate stuff is in BTC. I know that I want to do this. It also depends how you file first in, first out, last in, last out, etc. So you definitely want to touch base with your CPA. But I plan on doing this because I received, I don't know, over this year, at least I'd say 5 figures or something in BTC just through commissions. And that 10K maybe is now worth what, like 4. But I still owe taxes at the time of the value I received it. So on 10K, and when you're self-employed here,